Hey everybody, welcome back to another book review. This was a book that I pulled out of my pile. I actually am reading two books at the same time, and I left one at school, so I was like, oh, I need to read something else. So I started reading it last night, and it's a pretty quick read. This book is called Going Viral by Katie. I don't know how to say her last name. Cicateli-Kuc. I don't know. So I apologize to the author for butchering her name. But this was a really hard read. Like, it's actually not a hard read in terms of level. So it's meant for, I assume, older teens, mid to older teens. I grabbed it at the school book fair. They were like, hey, teachers, you guys can come down and look at stuff. And so I did. And I was trying to find books to, kind of put in my classroom, things that I thought my students would enjoy. And I didn't really read too much about the book. I was just like, oh, this picture looks cute, I'll grab it. But I do try and read most things that I put in my classroom, just in case like a student were to ask me what I thought about a book, or if I thought the book would be good for them. But so that said, it's not a hard read in terms of like reading level and ability, but it was a hard read because this whole story is about this girl named Claire who starts writing things online on Babbel, and it kind of gets out of hand, and she starts to mix her real relationship with her girlfriend with a relationship that she has with somebody who's really a friend. And it's just kind of all her posts and stuff are written in this like way that it kind of makes you think that like she might like the person, or that the other person might like her, and so it just kind of gets really confusing for her. But all of this takes place at the beginning of the pandemic, and so the story starts out in 2020, and it starts with them being at school and them hearing about, like, oh, we're going into lockdown, you're going to be at home for 2 weeks. And that was just really hard for me to read, because as a teacher, I remember that day finding out, oh, you're going to be home for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks became 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks became the rest of the school year, and then going back and not really going back, and just everything that they talk about, and all the feelings that people had, and all the experiences that people had in those first like 2-3 months of the pandemic. I felt every bit of those. So that was just really hard for me to read because I lived it, even though I wasn't a teenager. Obviously I'm an adult, but a lot of the emotions that they talk about feeling, and how people are coping and handling things, the parents are handling it, or even the main character Claire and her girlfriend, how they're both handling things differently. And they talk about losing people and not being able to see people and all that stuff. So it was just really hard to read, because it's still fairly fresh. And I know that it's 2022 and we have come a long way from where we were at in 2020, but it's still very fresh, and a lot of those emotions are still very much there, and I did not realize they were there until I was reading this book. That said, not my favorite book that I've read. It's not awful, honestly, but it's written in first person present tense, and I hate it. I hate that writing style. It's because it's, for one, the character, when it bounces between the character's like real story and her online stories that she's writing, and it got confusing. So other than the fact that like in the book, which I think is kind of interesting, that like whenever it's one of her posts, there's this weird font change And then like at other times it's like looks like a, you know, like a regular book or whatever. So there's font changes and stuff like that, but it just, reading in first person present tense is just complicated because it makes both the character and the author sound stupid to me. Not that they are stupid, but it just, the character sounds really dumb and sounds like they don't know how to speak English, because it's so, I went to the bathroom, I brushed my teeth, I am doing the thing, the whole story, which just got really jarring and slightly annoying. I also wasn't really a fan of the characters and the whole purpose of the story. I felt like the stakes were really low for the character in terms of plot structure. Like, there was a lot of exposition, rising action, and then to get to the climactic point, it was almost like there were, what I think was supposed to be the climactic point wasn't actually the climactic point, and so it just read kind of weird, and then the following action was kind of weird, and so I wasn't really a fan of that. However, if I was a teenager, this book would be fine, but I think as an adult, I also just found a lot of the story just very, very high school petty, because that's what it is. But outside of that, it's really not that bad of a book. And I'm sorry, I just realized I'm facing the wrong direction. So you guys get a nice blinding glare in the camera. So sorry about that. But anyway, so like I said, again, the book's called Going Viral, and I'd probably give it a 3, maybe a 2, just because of the present tense piece of it. But it was definitely an interesting story. It's definitely one of those stories that you can totally see being a movie on, you know, one of the streaming services. Super easy, kind of decently lighthearted, but it's also not lighthearted just because it's so fresh that just all of everything that happens is just so very fresh because we all just lived it. So yeah, so there you go. That is the book review for this month, or for, not for this month, what am I saying, but the book review for this book, and on to many more books. I'm super excited for that, so I will see you guys later. Bye.